We'll call the Board of Commissioners meeting to order for Tuesday, June 4th, 2024. Please note that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is located in the north wall of the Legislative Chamber alongside an automatic external defibrillator as well. Please stand for the pledge. We'll start with our Douglas County Board of Equalization meeting. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Borgeson. Present. Commissioner Boyle. Here. Commissioner Kavanaugh. Here. Commissioner Friend. Here. Commissioner Morgan. Here. Commissioner Rogers. Here. Mr. Chair.
Here. First item of business are items A and B. A being the approval of minutes of the Board of Equalization meeting held Tuesday, May 21st, 2024, and B, a call for a meeting on set Tuesday, June 11th, 2024, as date for hearing on certified assessment corrections reflecting the addition of omitted property to the tax rolls or increased value on property. Do I have a motion and a second? Second. Motion by Rogers, second by Morgan. Please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Next, we have our resolution C through H. I know we have somebody who would like to discuss H, so I'd like to pull that one out. Was there anybody else here to discuss any of the other resolutions? C.
Mike,
G.
Commissioner Mike
Yes.
Goodwillie, Douglas County Assessor Register of Deeds Office. If you want to pull something, pull both G and H.
Okay.
It's the same organization. I think G is the real property component, and H is the organization's personal property.
Got it. Thank you for that context. All right. Seeing none for the others, we can approve C through F in a block if it's so desired by the board.
Excuse me, Roger.
Oh, yes.
I thought maybe he was gonna speak first. You
On
did pull D and H.
G and H, yeah.
G and H.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to speak on H.
Yeah, we're going to pull those, so you will be able to speak on it. Yep. Thank you. Motion by Rogers to approve C through F. Second by Friend. Yes.
Okay. Just explain C to me. I remember when this first come, but I just asked
Sure,
to explain
it's-
because I want
it's-
to understand you all's
it's in- it's-
powers under this that
Sure.
it comes back like this.
It's an annual thing now. Normally, we're supposed to have values set by the end of March, okay? Prior to that, we have preliminary values out there in the middle of January, and taxpayers have the opportunity to come in and meet with our office if they have an issue with what they think what the preliminary value is. And that cuts off the 1st of March. But every year, there are always some instances where we learn of a property that might be overvalued or might be undervalued. Maybe the taxpayer didn't come forward during the preliminary meeting window. And so there is a mechanism that enables us to go to the County Board of Equalization, because we can't change value unilaterally after the end of March, to say to the board, hey, here are some items we've discovered. We need you to adjust the value. And the reason we do it is because if we learn of something where we're on the same page as the taxpayer and the value needs to change, it seems silly to require them to file a protest if we can take this to you folks and fix it. So this is an annual thing that we do. The best way I could explain it is it covers things we learn about properties between the end of February and BOE time.
But my understanding too is, okay, you're doing it now every year, but I think I can recall seeing some of these outside of this period. So this action that you're doing now is not confined just to do now. If you find something at some point that you all find an under or overvalue, and you can bring it back at any time.
Well,
now.
there are limited methods for correction that go beyond this. Clerical error is a big one, for example. There's a whole list, there's a small list of things that enable us to go back in front of the board at any time and make a correction. But this is kind of a more organized effort at rounding these kinds of things up before protest season.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. We had a motion in a second. We can go ahead and vote.
Motion passes. Commissioner Morgan abstaining, all other commissioners voting yes.
I abstain because hers is a property that I'm involved in that list.
Got it. Thank you. All right, we'll move to resolutions G and H. Mr. Goodwillie, you want to set up the context for us?
Sure, if I may. These items represent the recommended denials of exemption applications for the Danish Venneforening and Old People's Home. And on the application, they indicated that the property was used for 4 membership meetings a year. Facility is rented out to raise funds for operating expenses. A couple of things by way of backdrop in terms of exemption. We look at full property tax exemption applications in years divisible by 4. If those are granted, then basically that exemption rides along for the intervening years unless something radically changes. So this organization was exempt in the past, but when we saw that it was only used for 4 meetings a year, the other thing is one of the parts of the exemption test is the property must be used predominantly for an educational, religious, charitable, or cemetery purpose. And the exemption follows the use of the property rather than the generation of proceeds, okay? So when we saw 4 membership meetings a year, we reached out and said, okay, what are the other uses of the property? And the organization sent us a lengthy, they sent us a list of the entities that had used the property over basically the previous year, and almost unanimously they were quinceaneras, wedding receptions, birthday parties, items that are not really inherently charitable, religious, or educational. I had some conversations with both Mr. Catter, who is the initial contact person on the application, and then a Mr. Bamsberger, who seems to have taken over for him. And it sounds like over time, the organization has used the facility less and less and less. And so, although they seem to have plans to bring in more uses that might qualify for an exemption, they don't seem to be there right this minute. So that was our recommendation. And I know there are gentlemen here that would like to speak to you on their behalf.
Thank you. We'll let the applicant speak, and then Larry, I'll make sure you can speak as well.
Good morning. I'm Dave Pantos. I'm the attorney for the organization, which means Association of Friends. Yes.
Could you speak right into the mic?
Yeah.
I didn't catch the name of the organization.
Sure. The organization is the Danish Venneforing, and Venneforing means Association of Friends in Danish. So I'm going to actually let them speak, but I just want to tee things off by saying this is an organization that has been incorporated since 1936 and has had exempt use of this property as long as we've been doing that. They have not fundamentally changed their operations and the use of the property. And they're going to kind of explain that further. But this is and does continue to be a charitable organization with charitable use of the property. And it would be an onerous burden to take an organization that's been a nonprofit in Nebraska for 90 years and force them to start paying on this property that is used primarily for exempt purposes. So I'll turn it over to Gene and Steve, and they can kind of take it from here. Thank you.
I'm Gene Bamsberger, and I am on the board of directors for the Danish Venneforening and Old People's Home Corporation. I want to correct something first. It's not the mission and vision of Danish Venneforening and Old People's Home. It was incorporated as a not-for-profit organization with the intent of building an old people's home for Danish people. It's located in Florence, historic Florence, and the property that was given to us, which became Danish Vennelis Park, was donated by one of the Danish farmers there. I was really surprised when I started doing some research in that area to find out the huge history of the Scandinavian people in North Omaha, and especially in that area. The Swedes were down on 16th and Cummings. North High School was in the heart of the Danish community and was, in fact, the reason they're called the Vikings is because in deference to the Danes that lived there. I was told by one of the historians that I talked to that actually the Danes came to Omaha with the Mormons. So we've had a long history there. Danish Venneforening, we have never varied in our mission. We do have memberships, and that was the intent of building this organization to bring the Danish community together there. And that's what it's always been. When it opened on July 4th, 1934, there were 20,000 people in attendance. And the park did not have its current features, but it had a huge dance floor, gymnasium, and a pavilion for an outdoor pavilion for actually the old Danes the old men gathered there every day to smoke cigars, drink beer, and play cards. So that's what it was. The memberships were a way of bringing the community into this organization. And so they had huge membership and huge parties. I mean, I'm the caretaker there now, and I've been going through the cupboards, and it's like, I cannot believe the amount of silverware and roasters and all of those things that really supported the membership and their parties. We do, maybe the application and the list of renters does not accurately reflect what our purpose really is. We had to go to 4 meetings because our population is aging and the younger people are not quite as interested in this. But we have been working with the LGBT community for years. The Imperial Court does a fundraiser there twice a year. The LGBT Sports League is there. The Danish Sisterhood is holding their annual convention there. We now have, we're reaching out and making connections with the Danish Archives in Blair so that we can host events here.
30 seconds.
Okay, and then and the other thing that I wanted to put there is that we are now bringing in churches and offering our facilities for church picnics and church services, the use of the park.
Thank you.
My name is Steve Catter. I'm also on the board. And on the form that I have filled out since I've been president, I have always stated that we rented it out to cover operating expenses and to build an old people's home. Our core mission has not changed. We rent to a variety of people. We don't ask them if they're Danes or Swedes, etc. The purpose is to make money. And when we meet, we share Danish cuisine. We share stories about our Danish ancestors. I myself give a talk about my great-grandfather who migrated from Denmark and came through the Florence area with the Mormons to settle in southern Utah. We were a fixture in the community, and people loved the park. We've had no complaints. It's a beautiful setting. And so the only thing I can say is that it would be a shame to take away a fixed entity in a community with so much history, not only of Danes, but other ethnic groups. So that's about all I can say.
Thank you. We'll jump to Commissioner Kavanaugh and then Larry.
Thanks. And Mike, if you could just, to give us a baseline here, and just parenthetically, there's no backup information in the book. It says it's available online. That's not good enough for the county board.
All right.
Backup information in the book. I'm not looking up stuff online at the meetings here. So
Can I get a little help
I
here?
just throw that out there as an administrative thing. The questions I have is, how long has this organization been exempt?
It's been a very long time. But what has happened over time,
I'll ask the questions, okay? What's the property value?
it appears the building is just under the real property is just under 400,000. I think they claimed 17,000 for personal property.
Okay. 17,000 for what, I'm sorry?
Personal property.
Church and property? Okay. And what is that?
This is a list of the uses that the organization provided me when we asked for more
Okay,
information.
we'll get to that. what would the cost of imposing property tax or pulling their exemption be?
It's about 2.5% tax rate times about $400,000.
Say that again.
A 2.25% tax rate times about $400,000.
Yeah. What's that in American dollars? Cost of taxes to these people?
About 9,000.
About 9,000.
$9,000, thank you. So, I guess the position of your office is that the usage since 1935 has changed from an exempt use to a non-exempt use primarily.
Over time, the exempt uses have become less, the non-exempt more.
Sure. From what I understand from you gentlemen, the use of this property, the purpose for this property has not changed. The membership has changed, and you do afford a venue for rental for outside groups?
We do, and that was the original intent in the incorporation.
Sure, and that's very common among
Yeah.
churches and, you know, non-exempt or exempt properties across the city and the county. What's the annual budget of this organization?
We barely make ends meet.
I'm
So,
sorry?
We barely make ends meet. So we're at about, our expenses on a monthly basis are about $2,000 a month. And we, in the past, I mean, with upkeep, maintenance, those kinds of things, we're probably sitting about $30,000 a year.
In income or expenses?
Those are as expenses.
Okay, so this would be a one-third increase in the expenses of the group.
It would.
Okay, and it's your goal to have an old folks' home, is that correct?
Well, we're in the process. We've had a long conversation. The membership has had a long conversation about what is going to be the future of the park. And at our last annual meeting, because, I mean, our members are in their 80s and 90s at this particular
15
point in
seconds.
time. But we've had a long conversation, and at the annual meeting in April, we have decided that we are going to shift the vision and mission to a Danish cultural center, because Danish old people's home are actually going out of business.
So we just hit our time on, but we can come back.
Okay.
It's time. I do have a light from Commissioner Boyle and Commissioner Rogers. Commissioner Boyle first.
So, Mike, can you just help me out when you say that the need has to be for a predominantly charitable mission? When
The use.
the use, I'm sorry. So
The
does-
look, the
so
organization's
what's the word predominantly mean? Is it like more than 50%, or is that just kind of up to interpretation?
Actually, the statute uses the word exclusive.
Exclusive.
The
Okay.
court has talked about predominant. So certainly more than half.
Okay. Okay.
And there's
So
a
that's-
distinction to be made.
That's good for that. So if the money generated is paying operating expenses, and there's any more, if there's any leftover money, does that go back into a fund?
It does.
Okay. And then that,
In the 3 years that I've been treasurer of the organization, we haven't been able to put any money back. But the idea is that money will go back into our investments with the intent of building the old people's home.
that was my question. So those investments, do you have an idea about what the value of that is?
Currently, we're at $83,000.
Okay, and that was the fund to create the old person's home?
Yes.
Okay, so if the money generated outside of the operating expenses, it's going towards the old person's home, if that's not happening. If it goes towards another charitable purpose, Mike, would that qualify then as?
It's the use of the property that controls the exemption, not the generation of proceeds.
Okay.
And there's case law that goes back to the 1890s to that effect.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Commissioner Rogers.
So I just want to make sure on this building of an old folks home, that was the mission back then, but you never got the old folks home built.
We've never been able to raise enough money to do that.
Okay.
And it still currently is the mission until we shift.
Okay. So Mike, it sounds like, is the issue to qualify to meet the test, is it the number of meetings? They were having meetings every monthly. If they increase the number of meetings for their use of that, would that meet the test?
Well, that would be part of it. But obviously, use is not only number of meetings, but the amount of time it's spent in use as well.
Okay.
So I guess if they had more meetings, or if they had a nonprofit tenant that was using the property for a significant amount of time, that might change the equation. But at least right now, it appears to be solely, I don't want to say solely, but the predominant use certainly seems to be for private rentals. And there isn't anything inherently charitable or educational about those things.
So you're working with some other groups to get it, some nonprofits to use it?
Yes, we are.
But
And
that's
we're
not-
also pursuing nonprofit status in the new corporation.
How many people on your board?
12.
What's quorum?
6?
You got 6 people that can meet every month?
Yes.
Can you
Oh,
change,
in our-
can you change your meetings monthly to at least get to the test of meeting there?
Well, the board of directors does meet, they have monthly meetings scheduled. The membership is what we are, is what we're talking about, which is, I suspect it's about 35 people right now, 35 people. And we usually get at our monthly meetings about 25 to 30 people.
But that wasn't listed on the, that's not listed on there.
Not on there,
So
no.
technically-
Those were the 4 meetings. Since we've taken over, we've increased our membership, or since we've started doing some different things, we've increased our membership by about 25% younger people. We got to a point where the
Well, no, sir,
membership.
can I, just for the sake of
Yeah.
time, because I'm trying to help you get there. So the membership meets four times a month. The board is the official sanctioning operation, and you meet there monthly.
Mhm.
You're meeting there monthly.
We meet every other month at the park, and
Can you meet monthly?
yes, we can, absolutely.
Can you
we
commit to meeting monthly?
I will commit to meeting monthly.
Thank you.
We will commit to meeting monthly.
Commissioner Kavanaugh.
Mike, I want to say I commend your office for its assiduous protection of the tax base of the residents of Douglas County. It strikes me as maybe, again, we're maybe barking up a little bit of the wrong tree on this one, because I'm pretty familiar with similar organizations all across the city. These folks represent a particular piece of the ethnic mosaic of our community, which I think is a big strength to us. And rather than kind of bringing the hammer down on them, it might be something that we would want to encourage. The list that we see is a snapshot of their rentals. We haven't seen a list. You've testified to Commissioner Rogers about the activities that you do for the Danish American community in Omaha. We want to encourage you to be more robust in that. Pursuing the old folks home is a capital campaign, and I presume that you'll get some advice on how to do that, and that's a commendable goal as well. We have an aging community, and taking care of our frail elderly is a big priority with us. So if we can get help from the private sector, and you seem to be wanting to do that, that's a good thing too. So, if we're going to go after every ethnic/religious non-for-profit in town that's maybe going through a bit of a slump in their membership or their services, we're going to go down a big rat hole in terms of groups that are trying to do the right thing, and maybe they just are struggling currently. I commend what you folks are doing out of your own time and efforts. And I know that it's difficult. Ethnic groups that I've been associated with have exactly the same problem. And relying on primarily volunteers and stuff is a tough way to go. It can be done, but it takes a lot of time and effort. I think you'd be well served to pick up on what Commissioner Rogers is talking about in terms of bulking up what you're doing there every month, whether it's historical talks about Danish history, which it sounds like you have a rich history here, going back to Mormon times. That's before even the foundation of the state. And that would be a great thing, maybe collaborating with the Douglas County Historical Society on some talks. They're neighbors of yours on the Fort Omaha campus. And pursuing seriously a campaign to establish that center would be a great thing. I think, maybe we could focus on groups that aren't trying to make a contribution, that haven't historically had exemptions for, it sounds like, since 1934, and maybe encourage them. That said, we can come back in a year's time and see where you are and see if you've made some progress there. I mean, I think this is a wake-up call for everybody that, we look at these things over time. And it's important that you do some of the things that we're talking about, satisfy some of the questions that Mr. Goodwillie has pointed out. But for now, I'd be inclined to grant a continuation of their exemption.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I'd make a motion to that, yeah.
All right, there's a motion by Kavanaugh, second by Rogers to continue their exemption. I'm assuming that applies to both G and H. Yep. Any further discussion on that? I know Commissioner Borgeson, you had a light on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for being here. My, not angst, but this is 90 years of being in existence, and all of a sudden we're relooking at this. I'm not saying that's shouldn't be done, but that's what makes this hard. But I agree with Commissioner Rogers. If you could do things that would fulfill your obligation to meet those criteria under the law, that would be one thing. But I'm really super interested in the nursing home, old people's home, whichever you want to call it. And have you had any conversations with developers at all at this point?
We have not. Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, let's have a conversation offline here, because there are developers who do a spectacular job of actually even a mixed where there's market rate apartments and affordability apartments for seniors. And so there may be something there. There may be something through our housing authorities that could help with that affordability piece. So let's maybe sit down and have that conversation, because we are a aging population. That's not going to stop. And we're going to have places where people are able to live safely and securely, and hopefully within their own communities is really where they want to stay if they're unable to stay within their own home safely, but go to a facility where they're able to stay safely until and also with the quality of life until the end of their life. And so let's have a conversation offline about that. I would be very, very interested in helping with that.
We'll look forward to that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Larry, did you still want to comment on this? Okay, go ahead.
Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha, 68132. I am in favor of the exemption for this organization. I'd like to explain why, but that's going to take looking at the big picture. So I'm asking for your patience. Excuse me, sir. Go back to October 3rd of last year. We granted tax exemption to an Islamic organization, an Islamic center. And I tried to have a conversation as to why we should not. And today I'd like Mr. Goodwillie to be able to maybe correct some of his remarks, but you went ahead and gave them the tax exemptions on the part that was not used for restaurants, etc. But they had gotten that beforehand. So the big picture is here, we can't be in favor of one and not in favor of the other. plain and simple, English language. You need to talk this over a little bit more. But I'd like to explain something else. I watched the videotape again of October 3rd, and it's not all there, but Mr. Goodwillie referred to me as, and I think this word was changed on the video, as homophobic. I was not talking about homophobes, not talking about homosexuals. I was talking about Islam. And he said, Islam.
Larry,
Now, wait a minute.
I got a
Excuse
germane to the property of the Danish
Yeah, but
Venetian home, please.
I'm explaining why you should give them their exemption. Because you gave it to an organization of Islamic that is not a worldwide recognized religion, as he calls it. It is a terrorist organization recognized so by the United
Talk
States
about the
government.
property by the Danish nonprofit,
But you gave
please.
them a tax exemption. And you did the same thing on October 3rd when I talked about this. Interrupted me, called me out of order. And there's something else that I don't think is on the tape. That the two representatives behind the tables there, the chairs there, also went after me for that. But you folks do not realize that Islamic principles
The
are
Danish
entirely
property,
against
Larry,
our form
is
of
the
government
topic at hand.
and entirely against our founding as under religious or principles.
All right.
You need to define. Okay, here's your evidence.
Okay, thank you.
Evidence that it's not a religion.
Thank you.
I am out.
Any other comments on this motion?
Thank you for my First Amendment privilege.
All right, otherwise we'll vote. Motion again is to continue the exemption for the property.
Mr. Chair,
discuss.
does this include adjournment as well?
If agreeable to the board, yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right, thanks, everyone. We will now jump into the Douglas County Board of Commissioners meeting. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Borgeson. Commissioner Boyle. Commissioner Kavanaugh. Commissioner Friend. Commissioner Morgan. Commissioner Rogers. Mr. Chair.
Here. First item of business is item 1A and B, A being the approval of minutes of the Board of Commissioners meeting held Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. B, the approval of claims submitted for payment process through Tuesday, June 4th, 2024. Do I have a motion and a second? Motion by Morgan, second by Rogers. Please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Next item of business is our consent agenda for items A through L. Do I have a motion and a second? Motion by Rogers, second by Friends. Any discussion on any consent agenda items?
Chair
Yes.
Garcia, this is Tracy Yerk. I apologize. I'm using Catherine's mic. My mic's not working, Dan. Could we lay over item J for 1 week, please?
Okay. All right, so motion could be to approve all items minus J, to lay that one over specifically 1 week, if agreeable to the motion in a second. All right. Very good. It includes laying over J for a week.
And then, Mr. Chair, that was a motion by Commissioner Rogers, second by Commissioner Friend?
Correct.
Okay.
Discussion on any of these on consent agenda? If not, we'll vote.
Commissioner Rogers. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. We'll move on to our recognitions and proclamations, items under Section 3. First two items, A and B, are both employee recognitions of retirements. I don't think either one is here, but we will mention them. Teresa Wilburn worked for the Douglas County Public Defender for 24 years, and we thank her for her service to Douglas County and our citizens. Recognition B was the recognition of Sheila Wilmot, who worked for the Douglas County Community Mental Health Center for 41 years. We thank her for her service to Douglas County as well. Motion and second for those. Motion by Rogers, second by Kavanaugh.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. We'll move to item C, which is a resolution honoring and also recognizing Director Myers' recent national award. We do have a resolution that I'm going to read here in a second, but can I get a motion and second first? Motion by Borgeson, second by Morgan. And before we jump to some commentary, let me go ahead and read the resolution here. All right, it reads, whereas Michael Myers is a licensed mental health practitioner, a certified jail manager, a member of the Douglas County Criminal Justice Systems Management Council, and he has served on several local collaborations of criminal justice and human services agencies. Whereas Michael Myers has overseen the development and launch of many rehabilitation programs, officer wellness initiatives, facility renovations, and security enhancements. And whereas Michael Myers has been an invited speaker at many local and national events covering topics ranging from reentry to staff wellness. And whereas during his tenure as Director of Corrections, Mike has navigated his agency through the COVID-19 pandemic, civil unrest, and critical staffing shortages. And whereas the Douglas County Department of Corrections now enjoys 100% staffing levels, has reduced the incarcerated population by developing alternatives to incarceration, has implemented facility-wide safety projects, and has become a recognized leader in staff wellness initiatives. And whereas Director Myers also conceptualized and planned a mental health addition to the Corrections campus, which will break ground in 2024. Additionally, Douglas County served as the host agency for the American Jails Association Conference and Jail Expo in 2023. And whereas the American Jail Association Awards Committee selected Director Myers, our Director of the Department of Corrections, as the recipient of the 2024 Ray Coleman Correctional Administrator of the Year Award. This award was presented at AJA's 43rd Annual Conference and Jail Expo on Tuesday, May 21st, 2024, during the annual awards banquet in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Now, therefore, be it resolved by this Board of Commissioners that it extends its congratulations and thanks to Director Myers for his exemplary leadership of the Douglas County Department of Corrections.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just want to introduce a couple of guests with us here today. Director Myers has a couple of family members in the audience. His wife, Janelle Myers, and son, Charlie, are joining us today. As mentioned in the resolution, Director Myers received this award at the latest American Jail Association Conference, and the number of individuals that I witnessed come up to him after the award was presented, letting him know that it was an award well-deserved. And a couple of emails that we received post-conference just confirms that he was the right recipient of this award.
Awesome.
Thank you, Commissioners. Mike Myers, Director of Corrections for Douglas County. I'm honored to receive this award, and as I said when I accepted it, it really isn't an individual award. It is a team award to include each and every one of you who have shared your wisdom and support with me during my tenure and prior to my tenure as Director of Corrections. when I fulfilled other roles for the department. It is an award for our staff. I have many, many wonderful staff who they are the experts. There's no way that I can be the expert on everything that happens in the Department of Corrections. It's too complex. There's too many minute details to know. And if I've had any talent, it is in recognizing people who can do their role and do it exemplary, so that we can focus on bigger picture, bigger projects, moving the agency forward. So I am grateful and humbled to accept the award. I did get to visit. This award is named after Ray Coleman, who was the original president of the American Jail Association. He was present at the awards ceremony this year. I found it of note when he and I were speaking afterwards that his background is also in mental health. And so it meant a little bit more to make that connection with him as well. But again, thank you for all your support of our department throughout the years, and to all my staff for all they do. And like I said, this is really an award for everybody. It just happens to have my name on it. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Myers. We'll jump to Commissioner Kavanaugh.
Oh, thank you.
Commissioner Borgerson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Mike, you do deserve the award. And it is very honorable of you to point out there is no I in the word team, but you're the leader of that team. And it shows. And we couldn't be more proud as a board. I don't mean to speak for everybody, but we hear you every month come up and talk about the things that you have changed, brought in, just done at the corrections facility that make things better. And so you are deserving of the award, but I also understand your comments about it being a team, but it also is, you're the leader of the team, and with you in the lead, good things are happening, and I can continue to see more good things happening. So congratulations on that honor.
Thank you, Mary Ann.
Commissioner Friend.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mike, 3 questions. One, is Amber and the staff getting together to have a party for you to celebrate? 2, if they are, why wasn't I invited? I'm serious. 3, if I'm posthumously invited, can I speak candidly about you in front of everyone? Mike, congratulations.
Thank you.
You don't have to answer. Congratulations. I think you're doing a good job. You understand outside influences, and you understand how to work with people in a productive manner. And I appreciate your character and integrity, and that's the most important thing. So thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Friend.
Commissioner Morgan.
Always hard to follow, Mike. But I just want to congratulate you and say nice picture in your uniform. That was great.
Thank you.
Commissioner Boyle.
And similarly, for the mic. There you go. Similarly, I just want to congratulate you, Mike. I think it's your mental health focus that really brings a different perspective to the corrections facility. I think that shows not only in the concentration we have on treating the folks who are incarcerated, but also on your staff. And I think that's why what we feel like the correction center actually is well run. We feel it's a safe facility. We know your attention to detail when it comes to really the mental health, and I think that focus really is what makes you stand out among other administrators in this position. And of course, you have a fantastic team. We recognize that, and I would agree. Probably a really rare and important talent is to be able to get great people around you, and we can see that you've done that. So congratulations to your family. This is a big award, so it's kind of fun to watch, to have them be happy for you as well. Thanks.
Very good. Mike, I appreciate your demeanor, your professionalism, and your comprehensive background, so congrats again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, very good. It's a nice looking award. Thank you, thank you. All right, we'll jump forward here in our agenda. Yes, Mr. Clerk? Oh, we haven't voted on it? Okay, let's vote on that one.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you very much. Now we can move forward to our next resolution. D, who was going to read this one? Commissioner Boyle? Yeah? Okay.
So, well, whereas Douglas County appreciates the cultural, civic, and economic contributions of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer plus community, which strengthens our social welfare, and whereas all are welcome in Douglas County to live, work, and play, and every family in any shape deserves a place to call home where they are safe, happy, and supported by friends and neighbors. And whereas Douglas County denounces prejudice and unfair discrimination based on age, gender identity, gender expression, race, color, religion, marital status, national origin, sexual orientation, or physical attributes as an affront to our fundamental principles. And whereas Pride Month began in June of 1969 on the one-year anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising in New York City after LGBTQ+ and allied friends rose and fought against the constant police harassment and discriminatory laws that have since been declared unconstitutional. And then Commissioner Borgeson's going to continue.
And whereas it is imperative that young people in our community, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression, feel valued, safe, empowered, and supported by their peers and community leaders. And whereas we must acknowledge that the LGBTQ+ community has faced and continues to face systemic discrimination, including restricted rights, social stigma, challenges accessing healthcare, and other basic social services, and startling rates of violence. And whereas despite being marginalized, LGBTQ+ people continue to celebrate authenticity, oh my gosh, I can't say the word. Where acceptance and love. Now therefore be it resolved by this Board of County Commissioners, Douglas County, Nebraska, that this board hereby recognizes June 24th as LGBTQ+ Pride Month in Douglas County and promotes equality, liberty, and justice. Dated this date, 4th date of June 2024. Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Borgeson, second by Boyle to approve. Any additional discussion? Commissioner Boyle?
Yeah, I just want to say I'm very proud to be able to read this resolution recognizing LGBTQ+ and Pride Month in Douglas County. My parents were very, very engaged in the community, and they were giving mom and dad hugs before it was a thing. I would go for walks with my mom down in the old market, and invariably she would be stopped by someone in the gay community who would give her a big hug, and all of a sudden she would inform me that I had a sibling I wasn't aware of. And so it was one of her other kids. And so I just thought it was a beautiful thing. My mom was one of the first grand marshals of a gay pride parade in Omaha, and I couldn't be prouder of that. They took this on before it was something that was recognized. They received a lot of grief for it, and I know that the gay community were very happy to have outspoken political folks that they felt like they could go to that really represented them and that were very supportive. So that's one of the greatest legacies I feel like my parents have ever given me, is to just have basic respect and love for everyone. And so I just want to express my huge support for this resolution and support for the LGBTQ+ community, and I'm excited about Pride. Right, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Borgeson?
I too just am honored to be a part of this resolution in sponsoring it, because in today's world there is, and I don't use the word hate, but there is too much hate and violence in this world. And sometimes our marginal, not sometimes, but our marginal communities seem to take the brunt of that. And for us to be able as community leaders to lift them up and make sure that they know that they are worthy of being here, they're worthy of living here, and they're worthy of being able to participate in any and all parts of our community here. And I do remember your mother actually being the first, and that was for the parade, the Grand Marshal, so that was pretty cool. Again, just so they know that they aren't alone and that there are community leaders here that have their backs. So thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Otherwise, we will vote. All right, let's vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. All right, we will move on to our presentations in the agenda. We have one under item A, which is the Sheriff's Office presentation on the SWAT program.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. Thanks for the time. We'll try to keep this presentation very brief. I'm very proud to introduce one of the sergeants on our SWAT team, Sergeant Austin Pratt, who's going to give you a presentation on the current state and status of our SWAT team as well as our Special Operations Group.
Good morning. My name is Austin Pratt. I'm a sergeant with the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. I've been employed for 19 years. I've been on SWAT since 2012, moved up the ranks to assistant team leader, and then 18 months ago, promoted to sergeant and became a team leader. So thank you for having us. I'm just going to give you a rundown today of our current capabilities and future goals. Over the past 12 months, DCSO SWAT, and SWAT stands for Specialized Weapons and Tactics. We've strived to conduct meaningful and self-reflection in order to identify and address deficiencies, as well as reinforce and capitalize on our strengths. Throughout this process, SWAT has found its identity as a light, adaptable, and nimble force, ready and willing to confront the most dangerous criminals in Douglas County. Our team is filled with free thinkers. We're problem solvers. We need minimal supervision. We're professional. We enforce the state statutes, Fourth Amendment, and follow DCSO policy. We're highly skilled. We have advanced training and experience in use of force, de-escalation tactics. We're internally accountable. The team members are committed to this agency and the people we serve. SWAT is a strictly voluntary program. There is a tedious application process, physical fitness standards, shooting standards, and a selection week. After you are on the team, you have to come to training 16 hours a month, and you're subject to call out 24 hours a day. So we have that accountability. Maturity, we have team members who have up to 17 years on all the way down to probably less than 1. So the majority of the guys are starting to prep the younger guys for that succession plan. Our SWAT team capabilities, we're trained and we have experience in barricades, search warrants, serving search warrants, high-risk arrest warrants, dignitary protection, hostage rescue, mobile surveillance, vehicle takedowns, advanced intelligence collection, undercover or confidential informant rescue operations, tactical instruction. We give back to our agency in that way. We recruit not only for SWAT, but for the department. And we have one member who is a part of our K-9 unit, and we have integrated the K-9 program into our SWAT program. SWAT operations from 2020 to 2023, just a brief snapshot. You notice in 2020, it was a COVID year. We did not have a lot of operations that year. 2021 was the, starting to see the end of COVID, and our operations were still a little bit light with 14. 2022, We had an uptick in our operational tempo with a total of 37. And then in 2023, we have a total of 139 missions. This is somewhat, the uptick in operational tempo can be attributed to a reorganization with SOG, which is our Special Operations Group. I'll get into that here in a little bit, but that's why 2022, 2023, those numbers have increased. 2024, just a brief snapshot of the first 6 months of this year. We've conducted 35 search warrants, 11 fugitive apprehension operations. We've done 5 undercover overwatch operations, 3 controlled deliveries, 15 CI overwatch operations, and we've helped Road Patrol with disaster response operations a total of 5 times. So we have 74 operations to date so far. The past 6 months, DCSO SWAT was called out 24 times. What I mean, what's different from a call out versus a planned operation is typically the call out is less than 24 hours. So I might get a call, this afternoon, hey, we're gonna serve a search warrant at 0600 in the morning. That's a call out when it's less than 24 hours. The call out time and the time on target is less than 24 hours. In some cases, the commander or team leaders have instructed SWAT members to immediately respond to the scene. This is for exigent circumstances such as a barricade or a hostage situation. We go right to the scene. We can be operational within 30 minutes. DCSO SWAT and Special Operations Group is on track to have 150 missions or operations and an estimated 50 plus call outs in 2024. DCSO and metro area leadership. We've already started to change the culture, first within the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, and then the metro area by example through education and training. We're starting to give back to our agency. We're teaching our agency during in-service. All of our SWAT members are instructor level certified in different areas of use of force, so we give back to our agency that way. We increase our communication and coordination with agencies in the metro, so everybody knows what we're capable of, what every other agency is capable of. We currently attend a metro SWAT meeting probably twice a year. We talk with other SWAT commanders, see what the current crime trends are, what they're experiencing, and if we can help out in any way. DCSO SWAT has been on call for Omaha SWAT when they're out of service for training, etc. DCSO SWAT will be on call during the College World Series this year for Omaha in June 2024. We were asked to help out with the CWS, but due to limited resources and personnel, we decided to be on call for them. We also participate in joint training with other metro area SWAT teams, and we've done that once this year already, and I believe we've trained with every metro SWAT team was at that joint training. And again, I touched on this. We provide the training division with additional instructors. We lead patrol tactics, active shooter. In fact, the SWAT team is teaching an advanced active shooter for school resource officers this month and next month. And I believe we have some extra slots that we will offer to Omaha and Sarpy County school resource officers. The full-time reorg, the SWAT Special Operations Group, that is the first in the metro, I believe, to have a full-time SWAT element on duty 5 days a week, typically in the afternoons. I'll get more into what the Special Operations Group does. They're a group of investigators. They do narcotic investigations. They provide operational support to any other CID investigations. They also monitor and apprehend repeat high-risk offenders. They respond to any priority calls in the county, such as shootings, stabbings, abductions, sexual assaults. They act as a quick reaction force until, like if it occurs in the city of Omaha, Omaha SWAT gets called. They'll be the QR, the quick reaction force, until Omaha arrives on scene. Now, if it happens in the county, they'll go ahead and take over that scene. They work with state probations, federal probation, Douglas County Corrections, the gang unit, fugitive warrants division, and other local and federal agencies. Typical week, this is kind of a busier week, but this was just last week. On the 27th, the rifle was used and a shots fired. It was recovered. On the 28th, controlled delivery of narcotics, 2 search warrants served with SWAT, resulting in seizing 3 handguns, 2 shotguns, 6 rifles, over 1,000 grams of cocaine, 7 grams of meth, $7,400. 3 suspects were charged with several felony crimes, and we were assisted by Lincoln PD. Also that day, we responded to an armed party, special operations group. They apprehended that juvenile, and that juvenile was in possession of a stolen handgun, resulting in 4 felony charges. On the 29th, 4 people were arrested, 1 for misdemeanor, 2 for felony, and 4 fresh felony charges. And on the 30th, SOG arrested 1 person with 6 felony warrants. They also responded to the helping officer that was put out by Nebraska State Patrol in South Omaha. That resulted in shots fired in that standoff in Washington County. All right, flipping back to the SWAT side, our authorized team strength is 20. We currently have 16 members. We hold an internal selection process in the fall of each year. This year it'll be September. Right now we have 2 teams, myself leading a team and Sergeant Stern leading the other team. We want to increase that to a total of 3 teams, and that just breaks up training, so we don't, every other month my group does training, so it just helps schedule the training. We have, again, instructor certifications on each team, specializing in breaching, shield, munitions, less lethal, ropes, intelligence, and snipers. Our goal in 2024 is to purchase a Lenco Bearcat G3 armored vehicle, and to continue to show what a viable concept our special operations group is, and in need of building that program up. Our special operations group goal, short term, we want to add 1 team leader and 2 operators to that team. Our long-term goal is to increase our operational footprint into high-level fugitive apprehensions and gang suppression. And our strategic plan is to expand our operational goals from 0600 in the morning to 0200 in the morning with 2 fully operational teams. All right, switching to where we get our guidance for how we build or how we develop and maintain our SWAT team. NTOA stands for National Tactical Officers Association. They're a 40-year-old association. It's comprised of SWAT members, commanders, from all around the country, both from large and small agencies. The intent was to set on guidelines to better prepare law enforcement to respond to not only emergency and high-risk operations on a daily basis, but also respond to possible terrorist activities. These basic standards serve as an efficient core set of concepts and principles that improve standardization within the tactical law enforcement community. This also makes our job safer. So there are different tiers of teams, and I've put that link in there, the tros.pdf under the ntoa.org. You can click on this later and you can read the full report, but this is just a snapshot of it. So we were a tier 2 team. However, in 2023, they changed the standards, and so we don't quite meet that tier 2 team anymore. So that's what we're trying to get back to. We have one team commander. We have 2 team leaders right now, so we need to build that. And we need to update our personnel and incorporate tactical emergency medical response for a total personnel of 25. We'll get there. We'll build up to that. But these are currently our team capability and mission profiles. Again, I visited that in the beginning of the PowerPoint. Again, I mentioned we're below standard on the 25 personnel, but we exceed standards in the mission, or the Tier 2 mission capability. NTOA, the National Tactical Officers Association, Tier 2 SWAT team requirements is an armored vehicle seating minimum of 8 operators. We're obviously below that. We don't have any armor available that we own. Breaching capabilities, we're slightly below the standards, but we have a plan, and we'll be meeting standards by the end of 2024, spring of 2025. Sniper capabilities, we meet those standards already. Less lethal capabilities, we meet those standards. And then the tactical emergency medical capabilities, we're below those standards right now, but we have a plan in place, and we'll be up to standards by the end of the year or early next year. CNT is our crisis negotiation team, otherwise known as hostage negotiation. We have that team fully integrated with us, so we meet those standards. And with our K9 integration, we're above standards. Again, just another snapshot from the TROS report. This is under the mobility, transportation, armor, and support. Again, here's our armored vehicle that carries 8 operators. Tier 1 team, Tier 2 team is recommended for that, but not for a Tier 3 or Tier 4 team. Our operational equipment capabilities and deficiencies. This is what a Lenco Bearcat G3 armored vehicle looks like. Brief history on that. February 1997, North Hollywood shootout in Los Angeles, California. Bank robbers robbed the U.S. bank, I believe. They were coming out. Patrol officers saw them. They started to engage in a gun battle, a gunfight. The bank robbers had modified AK-47s, which were fully automatic. Back then, patrol officers were carrying shotguns and handguns, very outgunned. There was no armor available even to LA SWAT, so they commandeered a bank armored vehicle, and they went in and rescued 12 down officers and 8 members of the community that were also shot. So that's where the armored vehicles come from in the last 27 years. They've just making our job safer. Douglas County does not own any armored vehicles. Minimum response time for the nearest armor is an hour away. Omaha Police Department has a Bearcat on order. They have an older one right now. However, we have to call them. They have to have 2 people assigned to that Bearcat, and then they can come out and assist us. Looking to be an hour to 90 minutes of lag time. Nebraska State Patrol has 2 armored vehicles. They have a couple Bearcats on order as well. However, one is on the east side of the state, one's on the west side of the state. I assume it's in Lincoln, but I don't know how much it's in Omaha. OPD SWAT, their Bearcat was used operationally 160 times in 2023. Their operational tempo is much more than ours, so the chances of it being available is not 100%. Operations that armor could assist us, officer civilian rescue is number 1. October 2022, OPD used an armored vehicle to rescue a hostage, an infant, from an Omaha hotel in southwest Omaha. In October 2023, the Iowa State Patrol has a Lenco Bearcat, and they, along with Woodbury County Sheriff's Office up in Sioux City, responded to a homicide suspect that had barricaded himself in a car in a field, in a pasture, in the middle of the night. And both armored vehicles took shots, took rounds from that homicide suspect, and they were able to stop that homicide suspect eventually. But the use of the armored vehicles was the only way that those individual officers could get up that pasture. and deal with that. Barricades, we respond, you know, historically it's been 4 to 6 barricades a year. It's been a little lower since COVID, but just being out there with no cover in the elements in sub-zero weather, we can burn through our team very quickly. So if there was a piece of armor that we could get into and get warm, that'd be nice for us. High-risk search and arrest warrants. Again, we did 44 in 2023. We're on pace for 50 plus in 2024. The Bearcat would roll. The Bearcat would be operational for every one of those. Civil unrest, or more importantly, de-escalation. De-escalation can be used in about any category here. If somebody sees that Bearcat, they know they can't shoot through it, they know they can't harm the officers, then they just might throw their hands up and say, well, they got me. I'm not even gonna try to fight. And so that's the benefits of having that and using it as officer presence and in a de-escalation tactic. Hostage rescue operations, it would roll on that. Dignitary protection, large public venue events, probably wouldn't be in plain view, but it would be there in case we needed to use it. Recruiting, community events, and finally natural disasters. Obviously the tornadoes out in Elkhorn in 2024, we could have used it operationally out there, and in Waterloo during the floods in 2019. That concludes my presentation. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sergeant. We're going to jump to Commissioner Kavanaugh.
Thank you for this, Sergeant. Is it Pratt?
Yes.
And Sheriff, thanks for this information. Because of the constraints of time and public discussions probably not available today, I just wanted to point out that, you know, we've recently had this discussion regarding the personnel increases necessary to secure this campus. And without going into it too much, I would just hope that the SWAT capacity of Douglas County is available to this campus, because I know that the Sheriff's Office is 156 in Maple, and it takes me a long time to get there from my house. It would take them a long time to get there here from there. So I don't know if it would be possible to supplement some of our personnel needs on this campus by co-locating a SWAT capacity on this campus or near this campus. But that's just an idea, because, you know, you don't have to look any farther than the September 6th or January 6th assault on our national capital by thousands of people, and it took a very long time for SWAT capacity to protect the United States Capitol. I'd hate to see that if we don't have capacity nearby, geographically nearby this campus. I just point that out because I know that you're concerned about personnel, and you know, SWAT's a capacity that when they're not doing SWAT-related things could help us possibly with the court requested personnel increases here to protect the center of our government. I'm not asking you for a particular position on this. I'm just pointing out it might complement each other to have that.
That's a great point, Commissioner. And I think, you know, one thing that is apparent is that when you're talking about a sheriff's office that has obligations above and beyond a municipal police force. So not only are we responsible for that response in the unincorporated Douglas County, it's our primary 911 response jurisdiction, but also assisting other law enforcement agencies throughout the county. We do have that specialized obligation to keep the court safe. And definitely our SWAT team, our Special Operations Group, they do have to be specialized in this infrastructure, this footprint. Even how would we do a specialized hostage rescue if someone was taken hostage in this chamber or in the courthouse? And those are very unique environments that we need to have a specialized team of operators to make sure that we can bring those to a conclusion in as safe a manner as possible for everybody, up to and including the suspect.
Thank you.
Commissioner Friend?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sergeant Pratt or all of the above, any of you can answer this, I would think. How long does it take to train a SWAT team member after, obviously they've been through the academy, but how long is the additional training?
So the training, the selection starts in July. Now it's not every day, but there are selection processes that they have to pass, and then they get sent to a 40-hour selection week in September. So it's 40+ hours of training, and then once we develop that list, they get chosen off that list. They're operational the day after, when the order comes out. However, the on-the-job training starts, and they can go operational with us, but just continuing training, I guess that never stops. So.
Right. So most of it's OJT, but you're not losing deputy. Let's say two of them moved in a particular time frame. You're not losing deputies for another 5 months. I mean, they're not going to Grand Island, and they're not going down to yeah, right.
No,
okay.
All the training is done in-house.
Okay. Final thing, and I should know this. I don't think I do. Between a call out and a planned operation, if an individual is on a SWAT team with Douglas County, City of Omaha, your experience, if there's a SWAT team member, is there ever any situation where they are resourced to another area to leave the SWAT team for a particular 5-hour shift and go somewhere else? Or are they totally dedicated to these two teams? They never leave, right?
So
they got to be available.
Right. So if it's a planned operation and we have, and some deputy is at minimum staffing, we will work with that supervisor not to take that deputy out and go below minimum staffing. But if it's an exigent circumstance like a barricade or a hostage, then that's when the supervisors will let that SWAT team member respond to that emergency.
That was my point. So theoretically, that SWAT team member could be out patrolling Northwest Douglas County, and then boom, something happens, and that person turns around, makes a beeline to the appropriate jurisdiction.
Right, and I want to help paint that picture. So primarily, the SWAT team is an auxiliary function. Other than the Special Operations Group, which is kind of that overlapping function, where we have the luxury of having full-time SWAT team members performing that Special Operations Group function during the hours that they're on duty. Other than the Special Operations Group, the SWAT team is an auxiliary function above and beyond our deputies' regular assigned duties. And they have to your point, Commissioner, they have to be ready to flex when the call comes, step away from their regular job as long as the demands of that job allow to move into that auxiliary function on a moment's notice, and then flex back into their full-time job after that.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Commissioner Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So let me make the pre-statement with this, with saying that, my understanding is SWAT's a very heralded position. So it's a real honor to be there. But I'm assuming this is in response to the question that I asked off to the side here to one of the deputy chiefs, because and if it's not, that's fine, but I want to be on record with this, because the issue with this, as the sheriff stated, is SWAT is auxiliary, it's above and beyond. And my issue was, if you're asking $700,000 over budget, and you got a $400,000 to $500,000 request for an armored vehicle, what's the priority? Because to your point, I don't know if you parking this thing in a garage that's going to be built there, but I'm assuming, I don't know what OPD is, but you noted the number that they used it. And I don't know in the 20 years that I recall of it being used. Now, I don't know if it's just a tier status thing. And if it's a tier status thing, then you get into the point of it's auxiliary, it's above and beyond. When you're saying that, security courthouse is this, I don't know what the fund is being used on it, but I'm just saying, I want to be clear that my issue is this priority? Because, for instance, if OPD has one, they're replacing it. And my point is, we have a boat. If there's an issue on the Missouri River, OPD doesn't buy a boat. They call you all, and they use the boat. OPD has Able One. We don't buy a helicopter. If there's an issue, I'm assuming if we need it, we could call Able One. My issue is with the budget being a 700,000 over request, and you have one of these accessible, all your issues are valid. It would be good. It would be this. The question is, where is it at on the tier? Because if we have another flood, we'll have access to OPD's armored vehicle, and the state will send whatever we need to some degree. So, you know, the presentation went to SWAT, then it went all to the armored vehicle. So that's my deal. Is the armored vehicle priority when all this other stuff is there? And, you know, what's the chances of using it? As it was stated, there's a slim chance. I'm not doubting the rationale, but the fact is, if you have to line it up in a tier of need, what's an armored vehicle? Now, I'm gonna be very clear. You know, my experience in seeing armored vehicles used are in inner city places when you're going up in situations. And, you know, sometimes I've seen them used, not here mostly, but in other situations, for manners that they probably shouldn't have. So I got a natural deal of wondering, whenever I see an armored vehicle, what's the armored vehicle's justification in an urban area when it's not war? So that's my issue with some degree. Not SWAT. SWAT's a heralded position. They deserve much praise. But in the priority of things, when you come last month with a budget that's 700,000 over, you need a $500,000 assault vehicle right now? That's my point.
Sure. Do you want me to respond to that? A couple points.
You can.
Yeah, a couple points. As far as the timeliness of the presentation, this was actually on the agenda for several weeks prior to the budget, and we had been asked to move it to this day, which we did. As far as what is the priority and how does the budget play out when we're over budget in other areas, I think it's important to note, and I think most of the board knows this, and maybe not necessarily the community and the taxpayers, that the true costs of running a major metropolitan sheriff's department, especially the non-wage side, are very often masked because of our obligation to partner with the board, with the taxpayers, to handle as many of those expenses as we can with many different tools prior to coming to budget and trying to ask for a certain amount. So when we come for a non-wage amount, in this case I think it's 1.1, we try and clip off and we could wring our hands and be woeful about that, or we can do the best we can with that and make an opportunity to put away money to help pay down some of these exorbitant costs of running a major metropolitan sheriff's office. And that's how we do that, through encumberment, through grants, through encumbered money, through foundation money that comes in. And so, yes, it seem, you know, in a linear fashion that this is exorbitant and above what our portion, it would appear so in a linear fashion, but in a more global perspective, we're trying to manage multiple things at a time.
Thank you. We can count this as my round, which we can take it all the way down here. Just for my clarification, I think we saw at some point a few months ago that there was a purchase of some kind of vehicle for like around 350,000, or did that not go through? Or I saw something like that.
We're currently researching what the government contract rate would be, just so we're aware. We're having the fortunate and the unfortunate distinction of losing some folks that we didn't plan on losing. Before we saw our upswing in recruitment, we know that we had some spots that we could not fill. And so we're trying to see if during this budget year, for the wages that we did not pay, that we wanted to pay, that we have an opportunity to put down a down payment on an armored vehicle to see if that is an option to do so. And I'd like to, if it's okay, Mr. Chair, I'd like to respond to a couple of the topics that Commissioner Rogers brought up. And I completely understand your questions, Commissioner, and I think it's a matter of perspective. At the end of the day, when my subject matter experts come to me and say they need a piece of equipment to perform their job safely, not only for themselves, but for the public, if I don't listen and try to do my best to meet those needs, then that's on me. And that's why we're bringing this discussion to you as well. It's no different than if we went to a fire department and said, you all have to share a hazmat vehicle from Waterloo to Bennington to Irvington to OFD. We don't do that. We invest in the equipment that people need to keep themselves safe and to keep the public safe. And I think Sergeant Pratt did a good job explaining why these other agencies' armored vehicles are not available to us, oftentimes quickly or ever in some circumstances. And I think this is just a cost of doing business to keep our people safe. And I can tell you this, I've been in those stacks. I've been, even though I wasn't a SWAT team member at OPD, I've been too close to a house where someone was armed with a rifle. And it's a scary situation. And I don't want to have to look one of my deputy's family in the face after tragedies happen and know that I could have done more. That's why we're here today.
Thank you. That's my time. We will jump to Commissioner Borgeson.
Chief Deputy Wren, you might be the one to answer this because at some point we had an armored vehicle that was used, I think once or twice during Christmas to take the toys to Children's Hospital. So we had that vehicle. It was purchased through a federal program, retrofitted for us. What happened to that?
It was a MRAP, which is a surplus Army
Right.
military vehicle. We did not purchase that. It was given to us under whatever that program was. After a certain point, when working with John Solano at the county garage, it became so unserviceable from a cost efficiency for him that the decision was made, not by myself, that it would be passed on down the line to an agency that had more funds and resources to keep it operational. I believe it went to the State
We don't
Patrol.
have
By the
it
way,
anymore.
not by this administration either.
We don't
Private
have it
administration.
anymore is
Yeah,
what you're saying.
so the previous administration decided they didn't want to keep paying to repair it.
Okay. And I guess the issue that I have is not with the SWAT team. I've supported the SWAT team the entire time I've been on this board. But it's almost like we're trying to duplicate everything, and we can't afford that. And so I'm hesitant to say I support all of this, just because, again, if you look at it, maybe you can tell me how many of these in the unincorporated areas of Douglas County have all of your stats been in unincorporated Douglas County? I don't expect you to tell me off the top of your head right now, but I would like to know that information. And again, it just seems like we are creating task forces and groups, and that, again, we've never had. We've had the SWAT, but not at this level. And I'm just not seeing.
Sure. It's
why.
It's a matter of perspective. We're not the sheriff's office of unincorporated Douglas County. We're the sheriff's office for the entire county. And so what that means is sometimes our investigations end up leading us to, if a crime occurs in unincorporated Douglas County, the offender may live in Omaha, the offender may live in Valley, the offender may live in Ralston. And so when our team has to execute a high-risk warrant, we go to where that investigation takes us. Our fugitive warrants team, the vast majority of those warrants live in Omaha, Nebraska, but it's still our statutory obligation to execute those warrants. We are not the police department for unincorporated Douglas County. It is our primary 911 jurisdiction, that is true. But we have county-wide obligations and county-wide efforts. And so I think it's a matter of perspective. We will continue to do what we can to help educate that county-wide perspective. We're not trying to duplicate what other agencies do for the purpose of duplication. We are trying to make sure we're keeping up with best practice standards to make sure that our deputies have all the tools they need to keep themselves safe and keep the public safe. We cannot rely on other law enforcement agencies exclusively for this service. We have to have our own
I guess
SWAT
that is
team.
just the perspective, because again, there hasn't been, I guess, this explosion of going into other jurisdictions to cover or do things
It is
that
our
we
jurisdiction.
haven't done before.
It is our jurisdiction.
So I'm just a little bit hesitant to say yes on these things when we have things in place already in other jurisdictions that
We
could
don't,
be
but Commissioner, that's the point. We don't. And even if we do, if they do exist, we can't rely on it exclusively. That's the point.
just different perspective.
No, that is truth.
Appreciate it. Just to, for a quick clarification, this could be my second and last round here. So that item we saw come through a few months ago did not go through as far as the $350 purchase of a vehicle that appeared to be like an armored vehicle. So that was clarified. We're talking about this potential kind of vehicle here in front of us. A little bit to Commissioner Rogers' point, out of the overall budget request, the $700,000 mentioned, how much would this vehicle kind of take up from that overall request?
To clarify your question, are you asking if this is part of our budget request?
Well, yeah, that's a starting point. Yeah, is it?
No, it is not.
Oh, okay, it's not even a part of your 700,000.
No,
Oh, okay.
I think the sheriff briefly touched on it. This is a mechanism of using the misfortune of having low manning and not paying out wages. We have a bit of a surplus in our non-wage, or in our wage area that stops and then it starts. We layer our responses. We layer our work with the Omaha Police, with Ralston and whatnot, so that there's a net and not just a clean line. Because a clean line of jurisdiction.
Just understanding the down payment hypothetical scenario, what does that down payment look like? And then what is the...
To do what they...
Because your budget, okay, last year your budget was 500. You set aside, you're encumbering.
One public hearing, item 5A, which is a public hearing for Class D license for Costco Wholesale Corporation, DBA Costco Wholesale, at 17701 Evans Street, Omaha, Nebraska 68116, and manager application for Stephen Vandeveer, at 7707 South 184th Avenue, Omaha, Nebraska 68136. And I will go ahead and open up the public hearing, and we can start.
Good morning. My name is Tim O'Neill. I'm with O'Neill Heinrich Law Firm in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I represent Costco seeking a Class D liquor license. And I know you've had kind of a full morning, so I'll just open it up to questions and be happy to answer anything you have.
Appreciate it. Any questions or comments by commissioners or public? Commissioner Rogers?
Oh, so I'm just curious. The Costco is technically in the county, but it must be within the city's 3-mile planning jurisdiction.
It's correct. That's why we're here.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else on this topic? Otherwise, I will close the public hearing and ask what is the will of the board? Motion to approve by Commissioner Borgeson, second by Rogers. Please vote.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right, we will move on to our committee discussion and action. Item 6A, finance. First one is budget report as presented, as well as item 2, monthly fee report from the clerk's office as presented as well. Item 3 is a presentation by Douglas County Emergency Management on the department's 24-25 budget request, and we will call them up now.
I'm Paul Johnson, Director of the Douglas County Emergency Management Agency. Whitney Shipley's my Assistant Director. And I'll make this brief, we're going right to our budget here for 24-25. Our current target is 598,327, and our requested amount is 693,508. The reason for the increase, as you can see from the third page there that you get in your handout, we have some tornado damage to the sirens for $18,200. That's our best estimate. We're talking about a radio upgrade. This allows us to communicate with police and fire, and our radios are becoming obsolete and will no longer be able to be repaired, so we're upgrading our radios. And then the last one is the siren activation capability from the health center campus. We used to have this capability when we were downstairs with 911, and it was the old copper line system going out to the health center. And when we moved out to the current building, the old Fitz home, we're able to sound the sirens from there, of course, and that goes to the tower that's right on the campus. But we don't have the capability to sound sirens from 41st and Pierce anymore, and this allows us to do that. And we've talked to Kyle Kramer about that, and it serves as a backup system for our siren activation. We got a lot of calls during the tornado, April 26th, of how people were very, very complimentary on their ability to hear the sirens, and as well as other means of notification. But it reinforced in our minds the importance of being able to set those sirens off in an alternate location in case we need to. There are several points of vulnerability, if you will, when it comes to the sirens, and even from our location there at 911 right out to the tower. So this allows us to not have those single points of failure, such that if we have something that disrupts us from that communication effort, we're able to have an alternate means to setting off the sirens. And like I say, it restores our old capability that we used to have, that we relied on, and we have used it in the past. So it just presents an alternate capability for us. And so the difference, requested increase is 95,181. I'll take any questions that you might have.
Thank you. We'll jump to Commissioner Borgerson.
Chair. The siren damage from the Elkhorn tornado, would that be reimbursable?
Yes.
From FEMA? Okay, that's
yes.
good. Probably might want to note that in budget if it hasn't been already. And then the radio upgrade, that doesn't have anything to do with the tornado. That's just what needed for our operations moving forward.
Well, we used them during the tornado.
Yeah, but
yes.
they weren't damaged like the sirens were.
No.
So that, and then the siren activation capability, say it again, we don't have it on the health center and we're wanting to put it there, or it's there but it's not working?
We have an old system that's there, that's not working, that's not workable. So we have to put new equipment in there to make that workable. We want to make use of that tower, which is so extremely valuable. And we haven't, we're not at a point where we can use it now. And we want to be able to use that. And it's a new cabling and new antenna too.
And this isn't the one that's on the Field Club property across the street? This is actually...
It's in the shack. Our equipment's in the shack right below the tower. And so if you go clear up to the top of the tower, that's our antenna up there.
Okay. And then this has nothing to do with budget, but we were driving around and noticed in an area way out in the county, in I think it was Westbury Farms or something. When you turn in, there's a siren right there. The siren is like pointed right at these people's house. And it was like, whoa, holy moly. Aren't they supposed to be like shooting up so
They're,
it
they're,
spreads?
they're 50 feet off the ground, and
Yeah.
it's a horizontal, 360-degree sounding. So the rotation does occur, but yeah, there's some houses that are closer than others, and we get all sorts of calls about people saying it's too loud and other people saying we can't hear it. And,
Right,
I mean, that's
right.
just sirens.
Yeah, well, that was the first time I'd seen it where it was just like pointing right at a house. Not that I got any complaints, it was me just curious as to, holy moly, they'll get woken up at night
Well, when
if there's a
and
tornado.
you can't tell the horn where to stop. So once it does the rotation, it stops where it wants to. So it may have ended up at that house, and sometime it might end up shooting at the corn. So
Okay, gotcha. Sorry.
It's all right.
Off topic.
Thank you. We'll jump to Commissioner Boyle.
Just a question again about the siren activation capability from the health center. I'm just curious more than anything. There's a tower there already so it's really just, so the tower doesn't need to be replaced. It's really
No.
getting the electrical computer equipment or whatever it takes. Is that really what we're buying? Is it software? Is it hardware? What is it?
You're hitting the nail on the head. Very good.
Yeah.
It's software.
Mhm.
It's a server. It's a controller. It's a radio. It's cabling. It's an antenna.
Okay, very good. All right, I was just curious.
Yeah,
Right.
and the tower's already there. So
Uh-huh.
we're just going to make use of the tower that's already there.
Got it. All right, good deal. Thanks.
Commissioner Rogers?
Paul, I'm on that question. So you just build, so you can do it from, Fitzgerald, you can do it from downstairs, and you just build a redundancy by being able to do it in a third location.
No, it's actually, if the sirens are attempted to go off at 911 and they don't go off, there's an alternative path to set them off through the health center campus. So now the duplicate capability also exists downstairs. Once we do this, we can set them off from downstairs at 41st and Pierce as well.
So that's my thing. You don't have
We're not
three.
multiplying locations. We're doubling the path. So instead of the sirens being set off just at that tower, 156th and Maple, now the sirens can be set off at 41st and Pierce.
Right,
From
but
the
it was set
same
it off
thr-
for the whole county.
Yes.
That's what I mean. So
Yes.
it's redundancy.
Yes, it's
Okay.
redundancy.
All right.
That's what it is.
Thank you. Commissioner Kavanaugh?
Thank you. Paul, I just wanted to say, great job on the recent tornado emergency. I think you and your staff and the siren system saved lives. And the fact that we had no fatalities in light of the massive damage is
It's a
really a
miracle.
credit to the early warning that you were able to give us. So if you need more resources to make that happen, I think that's justified. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? If not, that can conclude the presentation. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
All right, we have one more presentation under finance, which is a presentation by Douglas County Corrections on their department's 24-25 budget request.
Good morning once again, Commissioners. Michael Myers, Director of Corrections for Douglas County. Michael Myers, Director of Corrections for Douglas County. As I begin, I want to remind you of all the kind words that you said about me earlier today. A high-level breakdown of our operation in terms of a budget. Our personnel costs represent about 2/3 of our operating budget. Purchase services, to include medical, food service, our security system, laundry technology, are another driver of our budget. And supplies and equipment, clothing, hygiene, kitchen equipment, basically all of the things we need in terms of stuff to make the jail operate. Two of those lines have increased significantly. We have been able to keep the supplies and equipment portion of our budget essentially flat over the past several years. Our budget target was 58 million. As you can see, we are significantly over that request with 63,575. Our rationale includes large increases in contractual expenses and the cost of some necessary projects. Our contracted services, our most significant ones, our food service has increased in the past year by $200,000 from 1.3 to 1.5 million. Costs were 99 cents a meal at the beginning of FY23. As you know, inflation has hit all of us in the pocketbook. When you go to the grocery store, we're currently paying $1.15. I want to remind, that seems like a low number, and it is an economical way for us to deliver food to well over 1,000 people daily. But when you're talking about, do the math on 3 meals a day, that's over 1.2 million meals every year that we serve at the department. Our biggest and probably most eye-popping increase this year is our medical contract. Earlier this year, we entered into an extension with WellPath that raised the cost from our budgeted $8 million at the beginning of this year to 9.3. We had made the determination that it was time to test the market because of the rising costs that were associated with that every year. The market was not kind. The bids that we have average $12 million a year, and those costs will be beginning in September. As the board is well aware, and I am grateful for, and the support we received in terms of wage increases for our officers, we achieved some full staffing, which results in a safer jail. Overtime utilization has decreased significantly in recent months. $5 million was added to our budget to account for the contract. However, we have seen actual impact closer to $7 million due to step increases and longevity. An hour of overtime costs more because the base is more. And so we've seen that amount actually be more than what was added to our budget at the time of the new contract. Our projects, there's a door and lock project that we have that I shouldn't say I really need to give exclusive credit to our tool and key division. And they work diligently to control costs by recycling and reutilizing used parts on locks and doors that have become obsolete in some areas of the jail. This has been a process that's been actually ongoing for probably 15 years. We just spoke with Sergeant Smits this morning to say, when did he first start talking about this? And we have now, that has run its course. We have exhausted the supply of used or refurbishable parts, and now we must replace those locks and doors. We're at a point where if a lock breaks, we would lose the ability to use a housing unit. That could result in potential increased housing costs and unsafe conditions. The cost to do this project, detention grade equipment, is very expensive. And so we're looking at an $850,000 expense. Commissioners, if I had been able to foresee what was going to happen to correctional health care, I might have asked for this in a different year, knowing that we were kind of kicking this can down the road as far as we could, rather than have it all coming together at once. Our offender management project system, In 2022, DOTComm embarked on a stabilization and upgrade of our offender management system, or OMS. This is our inmate property and accounting system. The current platform is obsolete and is considered to be fragile. It cannot be interfaced with any other system, and it cannot be repaired if it crashes. So we've been working on this for the past couple of years. To give you a bit of the background, for a long time we were working on, some of you may recall, a project with a company named GTL, who was attempting to provide an off-the-shelf modified software to do what this our homegrown offender management system does. After many years of attempts, that project was scrapped. It was never been able to brought to fruition. In the meantime, our current system kept just aging because we were hoping to engage in this other solution. That project actually went on. I was the third director to inherit the GTL project. It originated under Director Newton, continued under Director Foxall. We finally decided early in my tenure that this is never going to happen. But we were then left with a system that had been not updated, not kept current in its platform, which results in this project. So it's been ongoing for a couple of years. DOTComm needs one more year to complete it, and they need $700,000 to do so. This isn't an option either. If this system breaks and they tell us that it's old enough and obsolete that they won't be able to fix it, keeping track of people's property and money is vital to our daily operations, and we have to have that being seamless. A little bit of potential good news. We are nearing completion of security upgrades at the Criminal Justice Center. We intend to house additional individuals in the CJC. That should enable us to close additional housing units in the jail. Our new phone and video visitation system will allow us to reduce staffing due to some technological efficiencies that we haven't had. Our interlocal with the City of Omaha will be renewed this year, and with a per diem rate that reflects the increase in our costs. We are currently working with the Nebraska Department of Correctional Services to provide beds in community corrections, which would create a new revenue stream for Douglas County. And opioid use settlement funds may be able to offset the growing costs of treating those who are incarcerated who suffer from opioid use disorders. In conclusion, our contracted services are going up about $4.2 million. We don't have a lot of control over that. Our project costs for our offender management system and door and lock project are $700,000 and $850,000 respectively. Those, commissioners, are I don't see a way to delay those or not do those without taking significant risks. So our grand total above our target, as I said at the beginning, is $5.75 million. Our current budget target is $58 million, and we are requesting $63,750,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Myers. We'll jump to Commissioner Friend.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The party's over, I guess, Mike, before it even started. Hey, I don't mean to be trite. Well, the medical costs. You spoke of potential cost savings on a couple of slides back, and that was positive. What type of other flexibility, in your estimation and your professional experience, do we have available to us? And what I mean by that is, the RFPs that came in for medical costs were fairly limited, probably more limited than you thought they'd be. Can you? I wouldn't consider this fun, but let's throw a hypothetical out. Have we done any research on jurisdictions or governmental subdivisions that are actually providing medical services in the same capacity you are in-house?
There are some jurisdictions that do that. Some of those are in counties that have full health systems, you know, full service hospitals within their county government. And I'm not sure, I'll kind of glance in Teresa's direction, knowing that the RFP is still active, how much I should say about options. I am coming to executive session to discuss this. I don't know how much I'm supposed to say out loud in a public forum
Let me
until the
save you.
process is done.
Let me save you. There are liability issues and there are cost issues, I'm sure. I mean, for the most part, in private sector budgeting, what you'll do is most CEOs and most board members will go out and potentially investigate outsourcing because there are cost savings associated with outsourcing. Just high level, my gut tells me if we take on these type of risks, no response needed, you're talking about liability issues and you're also talking about cost issues that are unforeseeable. So in other words, you have a staff of 35 people, the next year it could be 45, depending on the capacity and depending on what you're dealing with on an annual basis. So my guess would be the problems, even if you're outsourcing, don't go away just because you insource. So I'm debating myself here, but I just throw that out there to say, based on the circumstances, all investigatory, channels should be open and we should talk about them, but we'll talk about them later.
Thank you. We'll jump to Commissioner Kavanaugh.
Thanks for this, Mike. Could you get us this report electronically or?
Yes, absolutely.
You've got some increased food and medical costs in here, is that right?
Yes.
And some time ago, I want to say 2015, 2016, we outsourced our medical care at the correction center, is that right?
We may have renewed a contract, then it's actually been outsourced for longer than I've been at corrections. For more than 20 years, it's been outsourced.
Okay. And it looks like it's now in the ballpark of $8 million, is that right?
No, that would be wishful thinking. It was $8 million. It's now in the neighborhood of $12 million.
Okay, well, I don't know. I'm a poor country lawyer, but I think you could hire a lot of doctors for $12 million. I just point that out because outsourcing a contract that seems to just escalate through the roof might be something that we want to revisit. The food the same way. I understand that food has gone up. If I read this right, do you have the food page on here?
Yeah, if I can, let me see here. I might need Karen's assistance. I need to escape out of this, don't I?
Just backspace. Yeah, backspace to it.
Our food service, Commissioner Kavanaugh, has gone up approximately $200,000 from 1.3 to 1.5.
Increased from approximately 1.3 to 1.5 in FY24, and go from meal costs of 99 cents to $1.15, 20%, I guess, more or less increase. And we currently serve 1.2 million meals. I guess my question is, we have fortunately experienced a lower average daily population and at the same time a fairly significant increase in food costs and medical costs. I don't know how we justify that or how we reconcile that, but that's something that we could possibly look at because if we're serving fewer inmates, at a higher cost, that's kind of a little bit of a head scratcher. Some of that's due to inflation, some of that's not. So I'm just saying that from the observations at this end, that's a conversation that probably needs to be gone into. The other thing is this locks thing, replacing the locks.
Correct.
Okay, in 2017, we initiated a full-scale redo of corrections using monies from the public safety bond. Didn't locks come under that?
So, Commissioner, I took over as director when that project was well underway at the end of 2018. That project primarily dealt with lighting. It did. There may have been certain locks and doors that were. That project was a few years back, so I'm not going to be able to recall that information specifically.
Commissioner Kavanaugh, I'm sorry. Milford, can you get his mic on, please?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, your mic turned off, so we're just getting your mic back on.
Okay. That's probably not a bad thing. And we overlooked locks in a locked facility. It's a bit of a, again, head scratcher that we would do that. But
Commissioner Kavanaugh, real quick, do you want a second round? 'Cause
yes,
you were,
please.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, Mr.
Yep,
Chairman?
go for it.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you. These are just some observations, and I'm trying to get my head around the fact that we're faced with a 5.7 plus million dust. I mean, I think part of the
Commission on Correctional Health Care about our situation.
Motion to reconvene and adjourn by Commissioner Garcia, second by Commissioner Boyle. Motion passes 5-0. Commissioners Kavanaugh and Morgan are absent. We are adjourned at 12:27 p.m.